So, good to have you on the podcast. Thanks for all you do. Good to be back. First time, long time. We want to talk about Drive. So we want to talk about the decision to do our first event, how we did it, how it came to be, selling tickets, people like the behind the scenes stuff. And I figured what better format than to do a podcast about it. But really quickly, if I could just put you on the spot, it's been about 7 months since you have decided to come on the Exit to Exit 5 Incorporated. Well, actually, the legal entity is DGMG LLC, doing business as Exit 5. So, what is what's your response? What's your reaction so far? It's been 7 months. Maybe talk about what you thought it was going to be and what has actually happened over here.
Yeah, this is like my live performance review.
Thousands and thousands of B2B marketers listen to this, so don't blow it.
Yeah, well, no, I actually, again, I think this sounds like this feels like my performance review, my 7-month retro, and I get to do the self review first.
I'll do that.
Let's see where to start. I mean, I remember when I wrote that I was joining, and I wrote my announcement post, and I was saying like, you reached out, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, but like I hadn't seen behind the scenes, and then you popped the hood and kind of showed me some of the metrics behind the scenes, and I was like, wow, this is actually this is doing a lot better, and there's so much more indications than I realized until you look behind the scenes that the business is doing really well, and we were ready to scale, and I was really excited about that. And 7 months later, we just had a meeting with our team and reviewed a bunch of metrics, and lo and behold, we're scaling, and we just hired our 4th team member. We're about to open up our 5th, so it's like it's kind of rare that actually like that plan comes. Like, I don't know if you and I have had that, like we had crazy growth, but like we say, this is what we want to do and we're going to go do it. And then it actually works out the way you intended it to on the timeline you intended it to. And so, yeah, I mean, it's been great to be here and be part of it and do this. And now I'm like writing a lot on LinkedIn again and talking to members and just enjoying it. And I'm doing so much more than just marketing, which is fun, and doing operations and analytics and stuff that I really wanted to do. And so, for me personally, it's been great, and I think for the business, it's just been awesome to see us grow over the last 6 months.
My guy right here had it. We were just on a call, and I saw he basically has a CRM. Well, we should maybe get a CRM at some point. We probably have that with HubSpot.
We have one. We just don't use it
right now. It's in it, but you have this like sponsor CRM, which is unbelievable, and I haven't seen it. And it said you have all the lists of the deals that we've closed, but also the people who said yes but then backed out. And I was like, what? And he has it like perfectly color coded, and like, look, this is like, I'm being silly and talking about this, but like when you talk about just like, we're always, as marketers, we're always like banging our heads against like ideas to get more. Like what you just showed me is like 20 people that we should go reach out to like now and be like, hey, you said you wanted to do something. Do you still want to do it? Like the stuff like that is amazing.
Yeah. And that's also what was needed, right? Like that's kind of what was needed in the business. And as a 1-person operation, and this is not a knock on you as whatsoever, you can only do so much. Like there's 3 people, there's only so much we can do right now. And so this was the next evolution, is we have to have sort of organization and be able to scale. And like, this is the stuff that gives us the opportunity to go hire amazing team members and go grow this business, Yeah,
it's pretty cool. And then we just hired somebody. We can't share it. We'll share. We'll have her come on. We'll have her come on at some point.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, we'll have her come on at some point. But thank goodness we got a lady in the mix. Somebody emailed me and was like, you don't profile enough women. And I'm like, look, I'm sorry. I'm trying I really, that's something that I am so conscious of. And like, we just happen to have a bad email where like the webinar we promoted was a guy, the podcast that week was a guy, the AMA in the community was a guy. I was like, damn it. But anyway,
it's just the way it works out. And that's how this is, sometimes that happens, but I'm glad we're addressing it too. I agree.
Yeah. But it's so cool to be able to grow. What I also think about all the time is the very first conversation we had was literally basically like, hey man, I got this property. I want you to be the property manager. Just like keep it going, keep the lights on. And then like what has changed? Like how much that has changed from that conversation to now we'll have a team of, we're going to hire, we have one more open role that we're going to hire. So I think by mid-June, we would have 5, including myself, we'd have 5 full-time employees. And it speaks to like, there's nothing wrong with solopreneurship. I'm not going to bash that at all. I think that's a totally great path. It was really good for me for a year or two, but there's just something so underrated that I didn't appreciate about like just being on a team, working with other people, having a shared sense of doing something. And, I fall in this trap sometimes too, where it's like, man, I'm not saving the world. I'm just doing B2B marketing. Like, does it really matter? And I haven't had that thought one time since we've had a real company and real people, because like, that doesn't matter. We're hiring people. We're helping change people's careers. We're building a team, a company, a culture. Like, that is just something that was so unexpected for me. And that is such a fun part about this business that I did not expect to have that.
Yeah. And I wasn't calling myself a solopreneur, but I kind of was being a solopreneur. I did consulting for a year after I left Privy. And I've told you this, I spent a bunch of money on an office that was literally 2 minutes from my house. And I had an office in my house, but I was paying like $7,000 a year. I looked at it at the end. I was like, why did I just spend all this money to drive 2 minutes with my dog and sit in a smaller room and not be near my kitchen or like just to be undistracted? And I was like,
now you have a child also. So
now well, that's the other reason why I got rid of it. But it's like, I was like, why was I doing that? And I realized in hindsight, it was just like I was lonely. And like, solopreneurship is lonely. You're not going to bash it. I will. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, I think it is. And I kind of had that experience too. And I feel like in November, when you emailed me, you kind of decided, wait a minute, like this is Exit 5 2.0, right? Like, your first investment was like bringing me on and like, let's scale it. Then we got mad and then we hired this new person. And I mean, and then there's been a bunch of investments outside of people as well, right? Your time and our strategy and stuff. But like, this is the 2.0 level. And I think it's way more fun to do stuff with people and to win together. I've been writing a lot about that stuff as like team and, chemistry on LinkedIn. Like, it's so much more fun to do that together, like to jump on Slack and talk about stuff. And you and I talk all the time. The funny thing, like you just said, was like you were thinking about, I think you framed it as like security. I need someone to like have their brain wrapped around this and keep this property secure for me, and like, that's you, and come in and just kind of do your thing. And, we'll see what happens. And after a year, whatever. But the real unlock was like you being like, no, wait, I love this business too. And it's fun working with Dan again. Let's hire some other people that are fun to work with. And like, that was the huge unlock. And like, all the numbers since I joined have gone up, but I really can't take credit for any of it. It was really you having this unlock of like, no, I want to invest in this and like talk about it and grow it. And not, again, investing is not just like putting money into it. It's also like your time and your thoughts and your resources. Like, that's like the big unlock. And all the charts since then have just kind of gone up, which is great. And that's not us bragging about it. It's just like, that's what happens when you have that mental unlock.
Sometimes I'll write something and somebody will be like, especially on Twitter, somebody will be like, well, how did you do that? And I'm like, man, there's no short answer. Like, I think the other cool path is like, this is like the solopreneur path was like perfect for a year or two. It allowed me to have like a head start. And now we didn't start this business at zero, right? And so we were doing like, I think last year it was like roughly 800K in revenue as a one-person business. And so that was huge because that meant I didn't have to like stress about deciding to hire somebody and pay them, and then everything scales as it goes. I do think that is a great path where typically the entrepreneurship path. And I just was having this conversation with Leah the other day because I was like, yeah, we're just hiring 2 more people. She's like, wait, what? Where are you spending all this money from? I'm like, well, the business generates money. We have some cash. Like, I want to invest in, hire, blah, blah, blah. And it's like surreal because, you have this running head start. A lot of people see the Exit 5 thing, and it's like, if you want to go become an entrepreneur, you typically have to like, well, okay, I'm going to not take a salary. I'm not going to not pay myself for 2 years. But because I had started it on my own and then realized like, oh, this could be so much more with people. It is so cool to see that. And then also it's just so fun to like it's like being on it when you're on a team, right? I'm now like, I get multiple opinions. My way is not the only way. It's like, oh no, actually, like Matt is a great example of like, he pushes back on me. He's like, young Dan, damn it. It just drives me nuts. No, Matt's great. But like, I'll share an idea and Matt will be like, I don't think we should do that. And here's why. Boom, thing, number 1, number 2. And I'm like, he's right. Whereas if Matt wasn't here, I would have just made that change and maybe made things worse. And so I just think it's a lesson in like, if you have the opportunity to be on a team, big company, small company, wherever, and that's like, I think that can just be such the right thing. And it's given me so much energy. It's such a treat, us getting to work to each other again with each other. I also think we've worked at 2 companies in the past, and we've kind of always had a a side message about like, man, wouldn't it be so fun? Like we have a good chemistry working together. Wouldn't it be so fun if we could remove a lot of the BS? And this is not a knock on any company or people we've worked with in the past, but like remove all the BS of a larger company. And if we just had a team of like 3 to 7 people doing this marketing content thing, wouldn't it be pretty special what we created? And like we initially were like, maybe we should start an agency. We're getting to do that now with the content and community business. And that is just like so much fun. I can't wait to see where this goes. That's what's really exciting now.
I also think if we go back a little bit, I think like some of your listeners probably don't know this, but like the real origins of
these are our listeners. These are our listeners.
Sorry, our listeners. If we really go back, I think the origins of Exit 5 go back beyond. Sorry, my computer just went to sleep. I think we're good, right? I think the origins of Exit 5, we'll edit that part out, go back to 2019, I think, right? When you launched the A-list?
November 2019, yes.
Yeah.
That is the day that I quit my job at Drift. Yep.
And I think, and you did this as a side hustle. Like, I don't know that our listeners, know this, right? Like that, like it, like if you think of it in like what you just described of like, we're talking about this great growth we've had over the last 6 months. Well, it didn't just start there, right? Like you spent 2 years on your own with the business. And before that, you spent 2 years as a side hustle doing this business. And so I just, we talk about build in public and we share kind of the stories and we're pretty honest. Like you just share some revenue numbers, right, with everybody. Like, the real business started like 4 years ago. Yeah. Even more than that, right? Almost 5 years ago now. And so like it was chipping away and building audience. And even before that, it took you forever to build that LinkedIn audience. I was there at Drift when you really started growing that. And then that turned into this and that. So it's like these things don't just happen overnight, right? Exit 5 is not an overnight success story by any stretch of the imagination.
No. And then the other thing was I've been fortunate to have like a couple of smaller wins in prior jobs. And I was thinking about, I'm going to just do this path where I'm going to be a solopreneur. I'm going to run Exit 5. I'm going to be an investor. I'm going to invest in a bunch of different businesses and that's going to be my thing. I don't know anything about investing.
And it's boring and you don't really know. You make an investment and then you don't hear anything for
and so you know what we're going to spend. I'm happy to tell people this. Like we'll spend close to $500,000 on Exit 5 this year. Like I am way more invested in that money, in that investment because it's our business. Like we're involved. We're growing this versus like, I don't have enough money to just like blindly write a bunch of checks to people. But to apply that to this business, it's like that. I want to have skin in the game and something that I'm involved with. And I think bringing in people, deciding that, I don't need to go put angel investor in my Twitter bio or LinkedIn bio. Like let's do this for Exit 5. And I just also think you only have so many opportunities. I think we have product market fit. How do we know? That's my favorite question. How do we know you have product market fit? I could show you a channel in our Slack called Love Proof. I don't know why it's called Love Proof. It's a bad name. But the messages that we get, the comments that we get, the emails that we get, beyond the growth and the charts and all that stuff, like there's something here. And I just felt like the more that I see it now, I'm like, man, I'm mad at myself for almost quitting this business 3 times because like what a moron I would have been if I had given up on that. And so it's super fun. And I'm fine sharing it here because I know the people that listen to this like love hearing this type of stuff. And you and I have been trying to share more about like the team and the culture that we're building as we're doing it. And, selfishly, we're trying to build an employment brand. Maybe you'll want to work with us over the years. And so it doesn't hurt to share some of that. But anyway, we got to talk about Drive. So we don't have to talk about all the ins and outs, but I want to talk about how we decided to launch it, and how it came to be. So do you remember where the conversation of doing an event came from, and roughly?
I actually tried to go back in Slack and look at it like
and
the other week.
By the way, PSA, here's 2 guys talking about an event that has not even happened yet. we don't know if it's actually going to be successful. We've sold out all the tickets.
Oh, it's going to be a huge success. I know it will be. It's going to be awesome. But anyways, yes, you were saying.
All right. So when did it start? First of all, number one, when did we decide we're going to do an event?
Is this like, do you have the answer? Did you look it up?
No. I genuinely am asking you this question. Dude, I don't prep for this podcast. Give me a break.
I think I did a search in Slack theory because I was kind of curious. I was like, what was because look, not to spoil the story, but we had a huge sellout event from it. It was great. So I was kind of like, wait, when did this start? And like, how did we get here? Because I wanted to do the retro myself and kind of like digest all the steps to getting there. And we're not done. We still have to do the event and make sure it's amazing, and more work ahead of us than behind us. But so far, feeling really, really good about it. I think we actually started talking about it when I joined in November. I think we started talking about an event in November. We didn't get serious about it until January. We started having conversations about it. And then literally, I think it was one day you forwarded me, and I got a forwarded email from the event, from the venue, and it was a receipt from you. And it said, deposit booked. And you, maybe I'm imagining this a little bit, but essentially, and this is kind of how things go, we both do this. You just decided, I'm going to book the venue. Like, I need to do that to like commit to it. And I think that was like February. And I just got, I'm like, hey, I booked, or maybe you called me and you said, hey, like, I'm here. I want to do this. Can I do this? Like, kind of like just getting to your point, another person's opinion. Like, am I doing the right thing? And I think you said, do it. Right. And that was basically it. We put that deposit down and committed to doing it.
Well, I think that's kind of what I wanted to mention. And I think it's very easy in marketing and in business and in any creative endeavor to let something just go on forever and not commit to it. And I think you and I, in talking about things we wanted to do this year, multiple people in the community had been asking for us to do some type of meetup. I mean, we had a community with 3,000 members. Like, people are going to say like, hey, we should do a meetup.
Over 4 years.
Okay. Yeah.
People have been in there for 4 years.
Right.
Like,
people have been in there forever. They want to do a meetup. I kind of like say some like silly things online as it relates to marketing sometimes. And my joke would be like, I have too much scar tissue, I'm too scarred from previous events. And really what I'm alluding to is like, when we were at Drift, we did these massive events and they were hugely successful for the brand, but they were just super stressful. And I was like, if I'm running my own business, why would I want to like proactively opt in to that stress? Like, I'm designing a company like around my life and I don't want to deal with that. But I think the gravitational pull of the community was really strong. We had lots of other indicators that, like, 1,000 people sign up for a webinar, 50 people go to a round table. Like, we had all the signals, like the demand was there. We just got to do it. And 100%. I think you and I had just traded off so many messages. Hey, our event's going to be sweet. We just needed to pick a date. And I think this is such a lesson for anybody out there that works in marketing. It's like, if you have something that you want to do, you could talk about it forever, for a half a year, for a quarter, for years. Like, pick a damn date. And I think that's really what I wanted to do. And like, the way that we picked a date was, okay, well, we started talking about this idea in maybe March. It started to be like, let's really go do this. Okay, well, it's March now. We can't do the event in May. That's too soon. We don't want to do it over the summer because people have travel and plans and families and whatever. Okay, well, let's do it in the fall. Okay, well, I said, let's stack the deck. I'll do an event. Dan, I'll do an in-person event, but I don't want to travel for it. It said, you're going to fly across the country with a newborn. I said, let's stack the deck. Let's do it in Vermont. Let's do it where I'm living. Let's do it in Burlington, Vermont. Stack the deck here. I know a place we could do it. October, we can't do it. It's too expensive because people drive from all around the world to leaf peep here up in Vermont. It's nuts. Okay, let's do it in September. I know the venue. I'm going to go down there today. I'm going to look at it. I talked to the woman about it. It was like $2,500 to put a deposit down. We looked at the dates. It was the week after Labor. It can't do Labor Day. Let's do the week after. Boom, September 11th and 12th. Does this work? Yep, it works. Done. Sign it. Go. And I think this is where speed is an advantage. And this is how you and I operate. Like, you have to just pick a date, make a deadline. Like, deadlines drive decisions. And so like, that was the one. And then once the credit card's been swiped, and then you had your baby, you were out for a month. We had 700 emails. They only use this. You can only respond to them in this like event CRM. So Dan comes back. He's got 50 messages from vendors, caterers, whatever. But I think it just was so important to pick a date, and the date is going to drive the rest of the actions.
Yeah. It was a commitment. It was just a commitment. So if I can, I'll do I think there's 3 parts to this, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I think there's 3 parts of why we were successful with the launch of our event. The first is what you just talked about, which is like pent up demand, right? Like 4 years, really 2 years as Exit 5, thousands of members, all virtual, but it's like a very active, like we've quite frankly shown the receipts of how active our community is. Like, people were excited to get together and do something in person. That's the first part, is like the pent up demand. The second part, let's talk about this one next, maybe, I think is brand. I think is you have built a brand over the last 10 years of your career, but especially with Exit 5 in the last 2 years, and built the Exit 5 brand as like, this is a group of people and it has a community of people that like are smart, you want to learn from, they'll teach you things, they'll help you with things. And so I think brand was a huge part of that too. And just like the perception of like, we're going to do something in person. And then another huge part of the brand was, we're going to do this in Vermont, right? Like, we're going to do this not in Boston or New York or San Francisco or Austin. We're going to do this because we're we're not going to be that try to mainstream and like get a bunch of, do a bunch of huge production value event. Like we're just going to get the right people, the right content, quality all together in this, kind of sleepier little town, which is like a fun place to go visit at a great time of year. Like that's a huge part of this too. I think that demand and brand would be the two biggest parts in my mind of like what drove the success of, again, I'm not going to spoil it, but we did sell out, in 24 hours when we launched it.
And it's funny because a little bit of me, even though we've had a bunch of success, like I still had the imposter syndrome of like, are people going to come up here? And if we want to do it in Vermont, are they going to come up here?
Yeah.
I think it's a normal thing that I still feel over and over again. But I do think that we shared this thing a lot lately. Like I love AI. I'm, spend 50% of my day talking to ChatGPT pretty much. And I'm like, ChatGPT, what's 4 minus 2 times 3? But I do think that there is a strong appetite for like the in-person connections. And I think especially in the world of like marketing and business type of events, you have SaaStr, which, Jason and the team is amazing, 10,000 people. That's like a huge thing. Even he was like, I asked him on a podcast, I was like, what's the number one thing you do if you start SaaStr over again? He's like, I wouldn't do an event. Yeah. And then you have inbound. But I think there's a huge opportunity to have these smaller, whether it's 50 people or 300 people, these smaller events. And so it happened to work. Like, hey, we're going to do a 180, 200 person max event in Burlington, Vermont. And like, people were just like, yes. And I think that played into the brand thing perfectly. And there's a story behind Exit 5 and Vermont that we've told that exactly creates that connection. So, okay. So we picked the date. You mentioned like people learning and the appetite for this. Here's another cool thing. This is why I talk about like the value of having a media company and being in content and how much value there is in being a publisher, because it drives all these downstream things for your business. All of the speakers we source from people that have been on the Exit 5 podcast over the last 2 years. And so literally all I did was think about who would probably say yes, who would give a practical, like specific talk about something that they could actually teach to our audience, and what were the most popular episodes of our podcast. And so whether it was Peter Mahoney or Lachey or Pranav or Kyle Coleman or Ross Simmons or Devin Reed or Dan from Apollo or Amrita from ClickUp, each one of those people have already been on our podcast. We already have some type of relationship.
Yep.
I haven't seen them present, but have a rough idea of how they're going to present. And so it's like, great. We just really quickly sourced 10 to 15 speakers. We reached out to people. We got them to say yes. And that was how we came up with the content for this thing. And then the next play was thinking about before getting the website together, we did a wait list. And I think this is such an underrated play for marketing, because we were going to do this event regardless, but I think anytime you can do a waitlist play, you basically get to pre-test your idea. Yes. And so we announced we were going to do hey, in a couple of weeks, we're going to announce our event. Go to this page. We hadn't put any details of the event, the name, the dates, whatever. And we had close to 300 people sign up on the waiting list. And we're going to launch something new in a couple months for Exit 5. We're going to do the waiting list. Why do you think that thing works and was a key piece of this strategy?
I think it was commitment from most people, because the big thing with the wait list is like we did it 6-7 days before we actually launched the event. So it wasn't that, people were signing up so they didn't forget about it. It was positioned as like, hey, we have a small venue, which was true. We only have a certain amount of seats. If you want to be the first to know and buy a ticket, we kind of feel like this is gonna, this might sell out pretty quickly. Like, you need to join this, and we'll email you before everybody else, right? We have an email database of 17,000 people that we can email, and we did, but we said we're going to email people that sign up on this landing page first. And so again, there was that pent up demand. People didn't want to miss it out. It was I think well positioned with the brand, Vermont, the fall, everything, the speakers, right? I think that was a really important part too. And so we did it close to the actual launch. We said on Tuesday we're gonna sign up. So the value of joining the wait list was much more important than I think than another way that people might position the wait list of just, it's coming in a month, join our wait list, like, and it doesn't have a lot of teeth to it. This was like, hey, we're gonna let you know early, and we think we might sell out, so you need to join this list right here if you want to join. And obviously we have an active and engaged audience. I think we just posted on LinkedIn twice. I think you wrote a post, which drove most of the signups. I think I might have written a post too, maybe Matt. we didn't send an email and say, go sign up to this list as well. We just put on LinkedIn because we knew that's where our most active people were, the biggest, advocates of the brand were, and they signed up. We got 300 people to sign up 6 days before we launched the event.
I think the packaging really helped too. And I didn't think of this as a lever for driving demand. I thought of it because we were trying to be responsible about the type of event that we did and the budget and how out of hand it would get. And I think the venue that we looked at happened to have a max capacity for 150 people seated one way and 200 people seated another way, which was like, again, back to picking a date. Having a forcing function for like the room size, I think was also really helpful. And like, okay, it can only be 150 to 200 people anyway. And so I think having that cap actually ended up becoming a good part of the marketing. This is not a lie. We announced the event. We sold out all 150 tickets in the first 24 hours. And then Dan and I were trading messages and we are like, well, it is capped, but like we can talk to the venue about rearranging the room. And so we went back to the venue. We asked if we could rearrange the room, which would add 50 new seats. And then we came back a week later after negotiating with them and like figuring out catering and all that stuff. And we added 50 more. And so we were like able to play off of if you have real scarcity and real urgency, it works.
Mm-hmm.
I think today people have become skeptical of marketing and skeptical of like fake offers, but we were like, no, literally there are no more tickets and we're going to turn this off. And so I think that helped drive demand too. But I just think it all speaks to the power of building an audience, owning your list, having an engaged audience. Like there were no crazy gimmicks. There were no crazy marketing plays. The more you can have, like, this is why it's so important to build up a following on social media, to have an email list, to have that audience, because then when you have stuff to announce, you're just saying, hey, remember us? Do you listen to us all the time? Like here's something that we have for you. And so I wish I had some like super neat growth hack about like how we, did all these we use all these crazy tech tools to launch this, but we didn't. We had an audience, and that's what it comes down to.
And it was both too, right? It was like, we probably would have sold out if we just did LinkedIn and then sent our whole email list. But like the reason we did it wasn't just so we would sell out in 24 hours, right? Like the wait list. The reason we did that was for the reason we told everyone, which is like, we know there's a lot of people that are big advocates of this community and the brand. We know you've been talking about, the other thing we didn't mention, by the way, is like you've been sort of teasing and talking about the event for about 3 months. Like after we kind of booked the venue, you kind of tease it on LinkedIn. Like that's another level of that demand you built up. And I think a couple of us have posted about it, right? Like,
talk about it. Talk about these things publicly.
Yeah. We didn't wait for like the announcement to announce we're doing an event. That was when ticketing went live, but it certainly wasn't when we announced we were doing an event. We announced the event 3 months earlier. And that's a super important part too. And people are seeing every few weeks or once a month, you post something about it.
Yeah.
So that's really important as well. But the one thing I just want to say is like with the wait list, the reason we did the wait list and the reason it worked was because of the reason we did the wait list, which is like, this audience has been waiting for 3 months to buy a ticket. And so this is the place to go. Just raise your hand here. We'll give you first access to do it. It wasn't some like false urgency, BS marketing play. It was just that those people we knew we were going to buy, we wanted to give them the red carpet treatment. Those are our people, right? We want to give them the fast lane to buy, so to speak. And so that's why we did it, and it worked out well. And then we sold out in 24 hours.
This is why for me, like my playbook from the beginning for the last 10 years has been content and social media. I don't know ABM. I don't know SEO. I don't know a bunch of different things in marketing, but I know how to build an audience, and I know how to listen to that audience and use content to test ideas at scale. And that is that's just the huge differentiator. And so I think if you're listening to this and like you're, I see questions often in the Exit 5 community, but like, hey, we want to do a webinar, but we're not sure of the topic. And I'm like, well, then you shouldn't do like, you got the tactic before the strategy.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be like using these little small pockets, like, and testing messaging and testing ideas. And I think now we should never do something unless we have like a little bit of data on it. And I don't even mean like we've run some like statistically significant tests, but we've gotten a bunch of email replies. Like there's so much value in like, even if you have a list of 50 people, 100 people on it, sending them an email and saying like, hey, we're thinking about doing a webinar on XYZ topic. Would this be interesting to you? Or what are the 3 topics you would want to hear from us? And only 7 people write back, but that's 7 responses that you didn't have before. And then building your content strategy off of this. I mean, it's why we've been able to create this into a whole business, because you have, we should coin the term like community-led growth if somebody's not already talking about that, because all the signals that you get from your audience is what allows you to go and do these things at scale. Anyway, I got to wrap because I got to go pick up a child. But we got Drive. The event is called Drive. We're going to do more content around it. Also, we use this really great tool for it, which I didn't know was cool until we use it, which is called Zuddle. And the best part about doing the launch was that Dan set up Zuddle to and Zapier. Shout out to Zapier. That every time somebody bought a ticket, it would shoot it into a Slack channel that said like who the person was, all the information we asked them on the forum. So it'd be like, this is Dave G, marketing manager at a $25 million revenue company. Here's 3 reasons why he wants to attend this event. And like seeing all that information was so fun to get that in real time. So that was cool. And we got a lot more to do now.
Well, I was just going to say, this isn't made up. I'm not just saying this. We actually just got one right while you were saying that.
No way.
Yeah, we just got a sale, and I got the Slack notification, which is great. The Slack integration, by the way, just to give Zuddle a little more of a plug, it actually it directly connects to Slack, so it's super easy to set up. It just came in. The whole team's in there. We're excited.
What is this? What is this nonsense in Slack? Dave bobblehead. What would Dave do?
You're gonna have to ask our new swag vendor what that is. That's their pitch on what they want to do. Yeah.
What would Dave do? Dave would not do a bobblehead of himself. Despite
and there's the golf clubs, and
despite how big but listen to all you listeners out there, despite how big you might think my ego is on LinkedIn, it's not the reality of it. Please, no bobbleheads of Dave in real life. But yeah, this is sweet. So this person in Zuddle, we see their company name, the director of demand gen. I'm the marketing team. I want to come to network, update my skills, and learn something new. I'm at a company 1 million to 10 million revenue. This is sweet. And then I've been going to everyone that signs up and saying if they're an ICP fit or not. Dan,
which is great.
Dan says
and then the last thing I'll just say right on this is like also with this is like it's great to have the information like for your own business analytics, right? But we ask for the information so we can actually tailor some of the event. Like we have enough flexibility where we're going to do these breakout sessions at the event. We're actually using that information to make sure that as best we can, people that are showing up for a certain reason, they're going to get that, right? Like we're going to put them in a group. We're going to let them connect with other people like them in their industry, at their revenue tier, in a similar kind of role. Those are things we get to do, which is really fun with this event as well.
Yeah, and I stole that idea from Pep because I went to his event for CXL Live last year, and then he did another one in winter. And just people want to see, like, I think we got a message from somebody. They're like, people don't want talks. And I'm like, I don't agree with you. People do want talks. The talks just have to be good and practical and specific. And we're going to make sure that they're that. What's also cool about the way that we're going to do this event is we're going to book enough time. So I want the audience, like I'm going to be emceeing and hosting. I want people to literally be able to ask the speaker questions and like not have to do it in just 5 minutes. And so we're going to have like a 45-minute session where, 25 minutes is presentation and 20 minutes of open Q&A for the audience to ask questions. But this idea of roundtables, people really want that. They want to hang out with their peers. And so like so much value is going to be in the hallways, in those roundtables. I think Pep had a great idea for that. And that's what I felt people wanted from Golden Hour. Was just like, it's the talks are great, but they want the connection. They want to be around people, get outside of work. So we'll share more. We'll do more content about Drive, but you can check it out. You can go to exit5.com/drive. There might still be some tickets. We have a small number left. You can go to exit5.com/drive and check them out. If you already bought your ticket, don't worry. We're going to make sure that you show up because we can't have an empty room. We can't have you, you got to be there. We'll see you September 11th and 12th. Dan, good to see you. Back to work.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. All right. Goodbye.
Bye.
Good job.
Exit.